Hi, this is Scott with BRIX Real Estate. And do you have an aging family member, relative, friend, and you have questions? Well, I'm going to tell you a personal story. Back in 2019, before the pandemic hit, I received a call from my mom, and she was going over to my uncle's house and asked if I could come with. She was afraid to go over there by herself. So I went with over there, and upon entering, his house and chatting with him for a minute, I automatically knew that something was off, that he was not happy, he was agitated. Um, I looked in his fridge and there was hardly any food in there. So there were a lot of questions. And my mom wanted to take him to the hospital to get him checked out, have him looked at. And he didn't want to go to the hospital. We had to coax him into going to the hospital to get checked out. As you know, I'm sure as people get older, they probably don't like going to the hospital as much. I I sure don't as I'm getting older, but it's definitely necessary. So we ended up taking him to the VA center. He's a vet, and they wouldn't allow me to go with my mom because of different regulations that were happening. So it was just the two of them, and I just waited outside. Things went well at the hospital in regards to, them making it to the appointment, them, seeing his doctor. So they came out, and the doctor had said, basically, and it wasn't something that she could, say with 100% certainty, but she said that it looks like he has the beginning stages of Alzheimer's and dementia. Now, my uncle has been an independent, single person his whole life and does not put up with people telling him what to do. So we go back to his house and, have conversations, and we go to the grocery store, we get him, walk around, and we're just, saying, do you want this? Do you want that? Anything that he wants, buying for him because we want him to have food to eat. And we get back home and, put all the stuff away. We make sure he's okay. And he's, walking around fine. And so, we leave for the day. Well, a few days later, when we're over there seeing him again, his car isn't around. And I have concerns that he, should not be driving. And like I said, he's a fiercely independent person, and nobody's going to take his car away from him. But he couldn't find it. So we had to drive around looking for where he left his car. We found his car. We brought it back. Now, along with this, we started, talking about that we needed to make somebody a POA so that they could handle financial and handle health and different, things for him. And with my mom being his sister, it was a natural choice. So we had an attorney come over, sign, the POA paperwork for him, for my mom. I became a secondary alternate, as some people would say. And then we started going around to the different banks and having my mom added. And luckily, he didn't have a mortgage at the time, so we didn't have to worry about that. We just had to make sure that the monthly bills were paid. Now, this continued to progress, his Alzheimer's and dementia. I came over and would start, helping him declutter his house. Being a single man for quite some time, he had acquired quite a few things. So I had to help declutter his house. And then there was an instance shortly after that where we got a call, and he had lost his car a second time and had become agitated in the middle of the street at a four-way stop sign, and the police were called. And the police picked him up. They took him to the hospital, and my mom ran to the hospital. She does not live nearby, so it was not fun for her, but she ran to the hospital and spent pretty much the whole day there with him as he was getting evaluated. And the doctors basically said he either has to come and live with you, or he has to live at a memory care center. So my mom and myself did a mad dash for finding a memory care center that would take him pretty much right away. Went in, filled out all the paperwork. We were lucky to find an opening at the time, and filled out all the paperwork, took care of all that, had him moved from the hospital to this memory care. It was not a great transition for when he got there, but luckily him and I have a good relationship, and he through talking to me, I was able to make things smoother and make it an okay event. And then after that, we had to get his house ready to sell and get it on the market so we could get him money to pay for the memory care, the residential facility. So I went over and continued to declutter and found a lot of resources, a lot of help out there. And of course, it's not cheap for the help. And I ended up doing, I'd say 99% of the work myself, through ordering dumpsters and just coming out and throwing the stuff away, giving some of the stuff away, selling some of the stuff, just whatever I could do to help move things along. And then once his home was decluttered, to make sure that it was the best that it possibly could be, so we could get it on the market and get it sold, and sold for the most amount of money, which we did. The market was great back then. And so we were able to get him a decent amount of money for the residential facility, so making the monthly payments for that. We also took his car to the dealership and sold that, so we got him a little more money there. And he had some really tough days at the memory care residential facility, whatever you want to call it. And there were times when he would be asking about his house, what's going on with it, what are we going to do with it. And every time that I'd go and see him, we'd go for a walk outside. because he loved being outside. So we'd go outside and go for, a walk and just have a nice time hanging out. And it was really nice getting a chance to reconnect with my uncle, because it had been a couple years since we've spent any quality time together, because he became a little recluse, and stopped going to birthday events and Christmas and stuff like that. And I'm sure that the Alzheimer's and dementia played a part of that. So there's been different things that have happened with him, and then come to find out shortly after this, my mom now has Alzheimer's. So she's slowly progressing through Alzheimer's, and things are getting worse with her. But luckily, she has my stepfather to help and to be there as a source, and as somebody that can make sure everything's okay with her. But that then through things a little challenging, because she was the POA for my uncle, and then I had to go and get a new POA, and I had to go and talk to all the different banks again, and even the memory care facility, and just going through different steps and not knowing what steps to really take, not knowing what to really do in these different situations, was a huge learning curve for me. And even for example, with the VA and how they handle things, and being a family member, and that they don't look at POAs the same as the state does. So there's different challenges, different hurdles that you run into, and sometimes there's people to help, and sometimes there's not, and you have to figure it all out on your own. And now that I have my uncle who's still alive, but he's really digressed with his Alzheimer's and dementia, to basically, he doesn't know that my name, he doesn't know who I am. He's not able to really communicate any of his wants or needs. He'll just start singing all of a sudden. He used to love to sing, so that's what he'll do. I talk to him, and he'll just kind of garble back a little bit and make no sense at all. It really makes it challenging and breaks my heart to talk to him, because I remember the guy who he used to be and not who he is now. So I don't visit him as often as I used to because of that. But I remember my uncle the way that he was, and the good times that we had together. And I'm also concerned as far as with my mom and her progression, and she's still has some of the mental capability to know that it's me, and being able to at least somewhat have a conversation with me. So I understand more than anybody, as our parents and our friends and family are getting older, and they're going to need help, they're going to need resources, they're going to need things that the county and state and can't give, don't have. And I just want you to know that you're not alone. And if there's any questions about things that you might run into as you have parents and family and stuff like that could be starting to go through this, that I'm here as a resource. I'm here to help. And answer any questions that you might have, because as someone that has gone through it and is still going through it, and knowing some of the challenges with the different residential care facilities and things that they're good at, things that they're not good at, it's definitely an eye-opener. And it's not just one residential care facility. From what I'm hearing, it's pretty much all of them. So you just want to make sure that you're doing everything that you can to help. So if I can be of help, please feel free to reach out. This is Scott with BRIX Real Estate. So 612-433-9376. Thank you.